Nobody saw it coming, not even his closest followers. Donnie Swaggart, the son of televangelist legend Jimmy Swaggart, has just delivered a farewell that left an entire congregation stunned into silence, and the ministry he spent decades holding together is now caught in a storm of questions no one at the top wants to answer. His voice cracked, tears filled his eyes, and then Donnie confessed something so raw and so unexpected that it left viewers around the world asking, what really happened behind the scenes, and why did Jimmy Swaggart, the man who built the empire, remain completely silent as his son walked off that stage? For decades, the Swaggart name was bigger than any one sermon or revival meeting. It was synonymous with fiery altar calls, televangelism that reached millions, and scandals that rocked the foundations of faith in America. But this was different. Donnie wasn't just stepping away. He was breaking the silence on a lifetime spent in the shadow of an empire, and the cracks that have long been hidden from the cameras were suddenly on full display for the world to see. To understand how we got here, you have to know the weight Donnie carried from the moment he was born. He wasn't just another preacher's kid. He was the only son of Jimmy and Frances Swaggart, heirs to a religious dynasty that dominated Christian television through the 70s and 80s, raking in over $150 million annually and commanding an audience of millions across the globe. Donnie was raised to carry that name, to protect it, to extend it, and to redeem it after the 1988 scandal that saw his father break down on national television, crying, "I have sinned against you, my Lord," as the world learned about his moral failures. For Donnie, those words were more than a family scandal. They were a turning point that defined his entire adult life. He became the hope for the ministry's redemption, the carefully groomed face on SonLife Broadcasting, the one who would prove the Swaggart family could still stand strong. He sang, he preached, he smiled, and he delivered message after message that kept the donations coming and the cameras rolling. But behind the designer suits and polished sermons was a man carrying the heavy burden of protecting a family's image, even when that image was cracking under the pressure of secrets the world wasn't allowed to see. For years, Donnie played the role. But those closest to the Swaggart family knew that cracks were forming in the carefully constructed facade. Behind the scenes, Donnie reportedly clashed with his father about the direction of the ministry, about how transparent they should be with their declining viewership, financial struggles, and the ministry's disconnect from a younger generation. Donnie, now in his 60s, saw the need for change, for honesty, for addressing the elephant in the room that everyone else pretended wasn't there. But Jimmy, approaching 90, was adamant. No change. No public admissions. No new direction. Just keep the cameras rolling and the money flowing. It wasn't just tension with his father. Insiders claim Donnie also felt the weight of personal family strain, including subtle but growing conflicts with his son Gabriel, who many saw as the next face of the ministry. Sources suggest Gabriel began making executive decisions without Donnie's input, hinting that the ministry was already moving on without him while he was still alive, still preaching, still trying to keep it all together. The emotional isolation was real, and Donnie's friends say it was only a matter of time before something gave way. In the weeks leading up to Donnie's shocking address, staff at the Family Worship Center in Baton Rouge noticed he was different. Withdrawn. Quiet. He missed meetings, something he never did. He was seen walking off stage during breaks, head down, clearly battling something bigger than a sermon outline. Rumors swirled. Was he sick? Was there another scandal? Was he preparing to step down for good? But no one was prepared for what happened next. On the night of his emotional farewell, Donnie stood before the congregation, notes in hand, ready to deliver another sermon in the endless stream of broadcasts that filled the ministry's schedule. But then, he did something that stopped everyone in their tracks. He set the notes aside. He paused. He looked directly into the camera and into the eyes of the people who had watched him grow up under the harsh lights of televangelism. His voice trembled as he said, "I've stood here for years, but today I stand as a son who's watched the cost of silence, a son who's carried a weight not meant for one man." The room fell silent. People held their breath, sensing something monumental was happening. Donnie went on to thank the congregation, the ministry staff, even his critics. But then came the words that cut deeper than any sermon could. Sometimes the people you try to protect the most end up leaving you the most alone. Was he speaking about Jimmy? Gabriel? The ministry that demanded his silence in exchange for status and a paycheck? The questions hung in the air as Donnie stepped back, wiping tears from his eyes, while the congregation sat in stunned silence. And if you think that was the most shocking part, wait until you hear who was missing during Donnie's emotional goodbye. In a family that built its reputation on presenting a united front, the absence of key family members was deafening. Jimmy Swaggart, the patriarch himself, was nowhere to be seen. No camera pan to the front row for a nod of approval, no sign that he was backstage ready to embrace his son. Frances Swaggart, the matriarch and a powerful voice on the network, was also absent, offering no public words of support. And perhaps most strikingly, Gabriel Swaggart, Donnie's own son, was missing as well. Sources say this wasn't an accident. Insiders claim Donnie's decision to speak from the heart without family approval led to intense internal backlash. Some allege Gabriel chose not to attend, fearing Donnie would say something that couldn't be taken back. One source described it as a family standoff, with whispers that there were discussions about preventing Donnie from speaking altogether, but Donnie refused to back down. And so, as he delivered the most raw and honest moment of his life, he did so alone, with no choir behind him, no family by his side, just a single mic, a dim pulpit, and a man who had reached his breaking point. The shock didn't end there. Within 48 hours, SonLife Broadcasting Network began circulating replays of that evening's service, but Donnie's heartfelt goodbye was mysteriously gone. The footage was edited, removing the moment when Donnie laid down his notes and spoke directly from his heart. The powerful line, "A son who's watched the cost of silence," disappeared from the archives, replaced by a clipped segment of a previously recorded sermon. The official website quietly disabled Donnie's page, removing his bio and sermon archives for over 72 hours. Social media users began asking questions, accusing the ministry of trying to erase Donnie's moment of truth. Behind the scenes, sources confirmed that the orders came from the top, likely from Frances or Gabriel, in a desperate attempt to control the narrative and prevent Donnie's words from gaining momentum. Ministry staff were reportedly instructed not to discuss Donnie's address with callers and to redirect conversations to general prayer requests or upcoming services. No public statement was issued, no explanation was given, and the ministry moved on as if nothing had happened. But the people who saw it live knew the truth, and in the world of televangelism, silence can often speak louder than a sermon. In the days following his erased farewell, Donnie reportedly met with a small circle of close friends and former ministry associates at a quiet dinner. One source claimed Donnie appeared calm but exhausted, and what he allegedly said sent chills through the group. "I gave it my life, and I never got to live it for myself." He spoke of regrets, of missed opportunities, of the burden of carrying someone else's expectations for decades, and the pain of realizing that even after giving everything, he was still alone. Rumors began swirling that Donnie was considering writing a book, one that wouldn't be filtered through the ministry's PR machine but would tell the raw, unfiltered story of growing up under the crushing weight of fame, scandal, and spiritual warfare. Some even suggest Donnie has been in quiet talks with another Christian media network known for giving a platform to controversial figures who have broken away from megachurch systems. If true, Donnie could soon have a space to share his story without the fear of being silenced, and without the constant pressure to live up to the Swaggart name. Adding fuel to the speculation, Donnie's personal social media accounts, previously silent or managed by staff, have started showing activity, following authors who speak on emotional well-being, transparency, and faith outside of organized megachurches. Fans are noticing, flooding old videos with comments asking, "Where's Donnie? Why are they ignoring his goodbye? Was he forced out for speaking the truth?" One comment captured the sentiment perfectly: Donnie finally became a man. Not the son of a preacher, not the heir to a throne, just a man. And that's why they're afraid. Meanwhile, Christian watchdog groups that monitor ministry accountability are taking note of Donnie's sudden disappearance, with some preparing reports on transparency issues inside the ministry. If Donnie has truly walked away, or worse, if he's been quietly pushed out, this could be the biggest crisis Jimmy Swaggart Ministries has faced since the scandals of the 80s. Only this time, the crisis isn't about moral failures, it's about emotional survival and the cost of maintaining a carefully curated image at all costs. Donnie Swaggart's emotional farewell was more than a man stepping away from a pulpit. It was a cry from the soul of someone who had spent his life in the spotlight, carrying a legacy that wasn't his to bear, and realizing that even decades of loyalty couldn't protect him from the silence of those he loved most. When he said, "I've stood here for years, but today I stand as a son," it wasn't just a dramatic statement. It was the breaking of chains he'd worn since childhood, the first moment he truly stood on his own. And while the ministry may have edited the footage, removed the posts, and tried to move on, there's one thing they can't erase: the people who saw it, felt it, and recognized the truth in Donnie's eyes as he finally let go of a burden too heavy for any one person to carry. The question now is, what comes next for Donnie Swaggart? Will he launch his own ministry, free from the shadow of an empire that demanded silence? Will he write that book, exposing the emotional cost of fame in the world of televangelism? Or will he walk away, quietly, from a life he never chose, seeking peace for the first time in decades? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear: Donnie's goodbye wasn't just an end. It was a beginning. A beginning for everyone who's ever felt silenced, pressured, or burdened by expectations they never asked for. For those who saw Donnie's raw emotion and felt a flicker of hope that even in the world of carefully scripted ministries, the truth can still break through. If this story moved you, if you've ever felt like you were living someone else's life, carrying a burden that was never yours to carry, Donnie's journey is your reminder: you're not alone. Drop your thoughts below. Was Donnie forced out, or was he finally free? Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and don't forget to subscribe because this story is far from over. We will be right here, covering what happens next as the Swaggart legacy faces its greatest test yet. Until then, keep your eyes open, because in the world of televangelism, the truth always finds a way to break through, even when they try to silence it.